Welcome back, everybody. This is Jim Watkins coming to you with a new episode of World Oil Deep Dive. And today we have a really interesting company with us called Spotfire. So I think we're going to be able to ask them some interesting questions about Gen AI and data in general, which is such a hot topic these days. So, but before we get into it, let me introduce our guests. We have first Forogh Askari. Forogh, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
So, hey, Forogh, before I introduce Alessandro, hey, why don't you tell the folks at home a little bit about what you do for Spotfire?
Sure, yeah. So, just a little background about myself. I am an engineer, so I studied chemical engineer, and I've been working in the oil and gas industry for the last 15 or so years. My role at Spotfire, I'm a technical account manager, so I work with our engineers on the customer side of things and help them, utilize their usage of Spotfire and, help them solve some of their challenging use cases.
Wow, chemical engineer, that's heavy duty. That's amazing. And so that must come in handy too when you're dealing with clients who are in that world, right? Because you understand their problems and what they're looking for. So that's fantastic. Alessandro, the next guest is Alessandro Chimera. Alessandro, welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm Alessandro Chimera. I'm a senior principal industry analytics at Spotfire, where I focus on advanced analytics and data science. And I'm part of the vertical go-to-market strategy team. And my mission is helping businesses in the energy sectors to solve their hardest challenges when it comes down to data. I'm also passionate about sharing insights. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. Whether it's through hosting a webinar, speaking at industry events, or writing for our Spotfire blog, or being on this podcast, as I was saying. And my background is in computer science and electronic engineering, and I'm fluent in Italian, English, German, which has been, by the way, a big advantage in bringing a global perspective to my work. And I'm excited to be here today to share some insights and ideas with you all.
Yeah, that's fascinating because working cross culturally like that is not an easy thing, right? And I imagine because I know in dealing cross culturally here, I'm based in France and talk to people all over Europe. But when you work cross culturally, there's always some weird little things that happen. But when you're talking about data, is that the same? Is it like people have different views of it, or is it because it's data, it's more scientific, so everybody's on the same page, it's just a different language?
Data is data, and everyone has the same challenges when it comes down to data, getting insights from the data. Because anyway, manufacturing and energy, they're producing way too many data. And sometimes it's tricky to get the right insights.
Yeah,
I think only
true.
20% of those data is basically used.
Wow. Well, let's get into that because this is an interesting discussion, right? But of course, there's been a rapid transformation, in the industry. You got decarbonization, you got regulatory pressures, you got digitalization. So, let's just start with what advice would you give to organizations who are having problems scaling up their Gen AI and their operations in general? Who's going to handle that question?
I take it.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, for organizations facing business challenges and scaling with generative AI, it's very important from the beginning to start with a basic and clear understanding of the business objectives and goals, and focus on the use cases where AI can add the most value. And especially in the oil and gas sector, for example, applying generative AI to automate seismic data interpretation or optimizing drilling parameters can yield tangible benefits. But unfortunately, despite investing enormous resources into generative AI and initiating many pilots aligned to those use cases, a research from the Everest Group in 2024 has shown that an outstanding 90% of those proof of concept pilots will not move into production in the near future. And some may never move into production at all. And this leads to I would say our advice in building small, focused pilot projects with a clear path to production and ensuring these pilot projects, including a collaboration between data scientists on one side and domain experts on the other side. And also, it's necessary to ensure that the data pipeline, data quality, accessibility, and integration is well prepared to support those generative AI solutions at scale. because overall, a well-prepared pipeline minimizes latency, enhances data reliability, and provides the foundation needed for generative AI models to deliver precise, actionable insights with the goal to drive innovation in a very efficient way, I would say.
Yeah, no, that's that preparation, of data. It's funny because like we're a media company, right? And so we're struggling with the same thing with people we speak with about like how can we implement this? And they're like, first thing you got to do, get your data straight, because everything else flows easily once you get that done, right? And you get everything built up. So, but here's a question. So you also talked about, pilot programs, and I would say like low hanging fruit programs, right? So that you can prove everything out. Is what takes the most time in the beginning? Is it getting the data straight, or is it like, okay, now we got your data straight. Let's think about what's like something a super easy get we can do with this now. No takers? Any questions? It's too tough a question. I asked too tough a question.
Well, I can say that data preparation is usually taking most of the time. You
Really?
need to have high quality data because otherwise, if you're applying, because the AI models are learning from those data. If the data is not clean, if you have low hanging fruits or outliers, then the AI model may behave in the wrong way, which you don't want.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's dig in on that a little bit more then, because can you tell us about visual data science and Gen AI and how all of that works together, right? And how you guys sort that out for companies. Let's get into a little more detail on that.
Yeah, I can take that one. Thanks, Jim. And, at Spotfire, what we're considered is unique in a way that we are able to integrate generative AI. And in our platform, we call it Copilot. The strength within Spotfire really lies in combining agile, exploratory visualizations that you're seeing over here with advanced industry specific algorithms. So in this case, oil and gas specific algorithms. And to highlight, some of the areas where our visual data science approach is really supporting that collaboration between the domain experts, your engineers, and tightly integrated AI capabilities to really drive those efficiencies in the development and rollout of data science driven applications. We've broken this down into three different categories that you're seeing over here, right? So the first one being providing the users, those domain experts, with a low code visual first approach to exploring their data and understanding their data first, which takes some time, and then from there bringing all of the required capabilities together so that the users are in one place where they can maximize collaboration between different teams, and kind of understand their data. And then the third section is really enabling various users and administrators and other functions to automate and productionize those outputs that they're generating, so their creative solutions, right, are able to be scaled to the right people in the right places within their organization.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a lot of work, man. When I'm just listening to it, I'm like, that is tough, right? Because I mean, what you're talking about is the whole idea of bridging the gap between like the specialist and the statistical and getting that whole thing together. And Forogh, you're kind of like a unicorn in that respect, right? Because there's not very many chemical engineers who do data science as well, right? I mean, that's not a normal thing. I mean, and it's hard to get those groups to talk to each other, right? In ways that they can understand, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit, but I think we're seeing a significant shift over the last few years, anyways, especially in some of these heavily automated industries like the oil and gas industry, right? Where, the engineers themselves, of course, they're getting trained as true engineers, but they also have an interest in data science and coding, right? So a lot of the new graduates, for example, that are coming out of school have some of that interest where they want to get their hands dirty. They want to use Spotfire or other tools to solve some of the traditional challenges that they might be having. And then, of course, the organizations themselves, they're rolling out various softwares and platforms, right? Whether it's their own, Gen AI capabilities or, some other software platforms that they're working with. So it goes both ways, right? The organizations are trying to attract new talent, and people graduating and joining the workforce are also keen on learning these types of things. So, it works together. And then, of course, the folks who've been in the industry for a long time, they're also looking at ways of, doing their jobs more efficiently, getting, more value out of the data that they've been collecting for so long. So everybody's really looking for different ways of optimizing their work and solving problems faster. So I think, especially in the oil and gas industry, we've seen quite a bit of a shift over the last few years. So looking forward to seeing how that works out.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I've been around a little while. And so, thinking back to when data and machine learning and rudimentary AI was just taking hold, there were a lot of old timers who were around who were just like, yeah, whatever, I can still do that better. I can do that better. And I think bit by bit, like you pointed out, new people coming into the industry and whatnot, they're not of that ilk. They're not of that background. They have their petroleum engineering degree, but now they're coming in and saying, okay, how are we going to use all of these cool tools we have today to make our job even better, more efficient, right? And I think that's one of the ways that we can keep attracting people into our industry, right? Because when they realize, wait a second, they're not asking me to go out there in the field and put on some overalls and be covered in oil from head to foot or something like that. I can actually do, fun, interesting AI projects on tons of data. I think that's a real winner. So, I guess that really answers that question about how you guys bridge that gap, right? I mean, because it is a difficult gap, but I think that gap is getting smaller, is what I hear you saying.
That's right.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and let me take also a step back here. So usually engineers in the oil and gas industry, they use mainly two categories of software. They're using specialist tools and statistical tools.
Okay.
And in regards to the first category, the statistical tools, most engineers, they aren't necessarily experts in that space. And today we might call those experts data scientists, as Forogh was saying, who are specialized in selecting the right algorithms and tweaking them for specific purpose. But then it's always challenging for engineers to leverage that expertise directly. And typically, a common frustration that I often hear is, hey, send me your data, and then I send you back some answers, and then we can review them at the end of the week. But then the reality is that the line for the statistical office is always long, with someone else's problem ahead of yours, which increases the frustration even more. And then integrating advanced model into upstream operation isn't really straightforward. You need to code in Python to build applications, and then write JavaScript to implement those models into an online portal. And then when it comes to the specialist tools, the second category of software, you have to be a specialist to operate them. There's always that one person who knows every feature of the tool, while then the rest of us, they just use the standard reporting and process tools. But most problems in upstream aren't really standard. And moreover, extending these specialist tools to include, or sometimes also called black boxes, to include, let's say, the additional data is always a challenge, and it never comes for free. They simply lack on the flexibility needed for complex operation, for example. And here, this is where Spotfire is different. It is designed to be the indispensable data analyst technology for oil and gas engineers. And it really puts your data at your fingertips and helps to bring together data from anywhere, different kind of sources, and display it however you need it. And here, engineers can clean and analyze data. When I was talking about data preparation, data wrangling, and so on, the tool supports you. You can identify anomalies quickly, create new variables and metrics on the fly. And it also natively supports Python for specific data. Yeah, and R and more statistical models, and allows engineers to develop reusable data functions that can then be easily integrated without knocking on the door of the statistics office. So you can then share within the platform. And I would say, well, this is unique and powerful. And this is really what we call visual data science. So visually drilling into the data, looking for patterns and so on, and sharing those kind of findings with other departments. And here we have also the built-in AI recommendation engine, which is able to analyze the data that you are trying to analyze and to find insights. And here it offers the best visualization for those different kind of data sets.
So like on that slide, if we go back, those visualizations we're looking at, those were AI generated. Those were like, hey, here's the data set, here's the results. This is the best way to show it off, right? And you guys put that slide together from that.
Exactly. You have different kind of data set. It may be 2 data sets, 3, 4, 5. The AI recommendation engine is understanding what kind of data you're trying to visualize, and it offers you the best visualization in that term.
Oh my goodness, that is fantastic. And like you said, just having a tool that you can use that's going to help you get that data cleaned up in the beginning and do that. That is huge. And I guess is there a way to measure that? I mean, how do you guys measure the time? Like, so let's say you start working with a client, and let's just say, for example, I know this is a low number, but let's say they got whatever 500 terabytes of data that's just jumbled, right? Do you guys have a formula you use? Say, okay, 500 terabytes of data that's not structured properly yet. That's going to take 1 day to square away. I mean, do you guys have a formula like that?
I don't think there's a rule of thumb in terms of, X number or X size of data. It will take X, number of hours or days. But generally speaking, right, I think it really comes down to the use case and the problem that you're trying to solve first, right? So some of the less challenging use cases, right, they might not need as much data or as much information, or the problem might be very obvious. It's just you're looking for a faster or more efficient way of solving that particular problem. And then some of the more challenging or complex use cases, right, it might be a little bit, it might take a little bit more time, right, in order to understand where all of the different data sets, for example, reside, and then bring them all together, and then creating kind of like a step-by-step plan to solving the bigger picture problem, right? So it really comes down to the particular use case itself. I don't know if Alessandro, you want to add anything there?
No, I'm totally with you. It often depends on the use case that you're trying to analyze, obviously.
Well, that's interesting. Because like I'm not a data scientist person or even an engineer, right? But for me, it's funny because I always pictured it. I talked to a lot of people about this. And when they talk about data, getting your data base squared away and stuff, getting all of your data set up so that it'll be usable, with generative AI and other things. I always think of like some massive project where you're taking every single bit of data they got and then getting it all squared away so that you can just do whatever you want. I never thought like, oh, wait a second, this thing, we only need 3 bits of data. It's over here. That's where it's kept. So let's get that straightened out. And that'll be good for this use case. Is that how it works? Basically, I mean, nobody comes to you and says like, look, I have all of this data, make it all beautiful so we can work with it.
Yeah, there's no, what's it called? Easy button, right? You have to Yeah. I mean, some people promise that, I guess, but the challenge is really understanding the problems you're trying to solve. And then, some folks do have those larger big picture problems they're trying to solve. And they have a lot of data, that is related to that. But what we do is, we help them break down the use case and the problems that they're trying to solve and kind of compartmentalize it so that you can take that step-by-step approach and, solve one bit and then go to the next and then, build a whole picture solution around, the large problem that you might be having.
Yeah, so you can just eat it bit by bit, take the big thing and eat it bit by bit, which leads to another great question then. So let's hear. You guys must have some good case studies or an example of, how you help somebody in the oil and gas industry do this already.
Yeah, I have one example I could think of. This is winter shell. I think we have a slide around that we can share the information. So they're a natural gas producer. They're a Dutch natural gas producer. And the challenge that these guys were having was really more around the size of their team. So their engineering and data and engineering team were swamped with so many requests coming from, different folks and different departments and, asking them to extract and combine data from different data sources as well. And what we were told was that, the time it would take one of these folks would be up to 8 hours just to pull the data together. And they were dealing with 5 different applications, right? 5 different areas where the data had reside. So, these, not only were they a small team, but they were also spending, a full day just trying to get all of the data together. So they wanted to give these the rest of their organization, right? They're geologists, kind of a self-service way of accessing and analyzing all of the different data sets that they had access to, so they could identify, the locations for this particular customer where drilling and exploration would result in long-term, them going into development and then into production. So for these folks, they came to us and they started using Spotfire in that aspect. And yeah, for these guys, they created an internal data analytics platform called Crossfire. So that's the name that they came up with, which kind of makes sense if you think about it. And it allows their different team members, right, to see what the data is available internally within the organization. And it allowed them to alert the data engineering teams, for example, to any missing data or nice to have data, right? So then those folks can go and grab that data. It also allowed them to start visually interacting with it in a no-code platform, right, that we showed earlier, which is the Spotfire platform, to really identify those new developments and opportunities. And then, it freed up, of course, the data engineering teams to set up a proper process to be able to identify and ingest data from, not just their internal systems, but also the open community data set, so that the exploration department could work together and work through their workflows and reduce the level of uncertainty that's typically associated with some of their findings. So they were able to work collaboratively right within these various teams, and of course reduce the amount of time that it typically took them to just get started, right? Just getting the data together before even starting to do any of the analysis.
But this seems like a kind of big project, right? Because you had a lot of departments asking for different things, so a lot of different data spread over different places. Give us an idea. How long did that take to get from start to finish? I mean, from beginning, like, hey, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the scope, to, okay, this is a usable tool now. All right, guys. So that is a lot. I mean, obviously, incredible results on this project with Wintersalt, and then, but. So tell us, like, I'm a client, I'm coming to you, right? I recognize my company has similar problems. So what kind of advice do you give to, whether it's a data scientist guy or it's a technical guy, what advice do you give them so that they can stay like proactive and kind of ahead of the curve on all of this advancement? I mean, it's difficult. They got real jobs, right? I mean, and it's not staying on top of what the latest and greatest is. So what advice would you give them?
Yeah, so I would say you need to stay adaptable and continuously learning, which is essential. And consider that obviously AI, we've seen it in the last years, AI is advancing fast, and it's important to focus on top-in-class tools like Spotfire that offers the flexibility and is able to keep up with the emergent best practices. And also, again, collaborating with colleagues and industry experts can help to ensure that those AI implementations are both practical and effective. And usually real benefit comes only from a combined human and AI approach. Whatever AI is deciding, there needs to be the human behind that is validating. And always consider that learning is important. I remember I visited one customer, and he had on his desk a dinosaur. And so I was asking, why do you have a dinosaur? No, because it needs to remind me that if I don't learn, if I'm staying like I am, I will become the dinosaur on the desk.
Nice. That's a great thing. I should have one of those too.
Yeah.
That is a good reminder. So, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, you guys do a lot of stuff, right? I mean, you guys have a lot of resources for people to, I mean, and they don't even necessarily need to be customers, right?
No,
I mean,
absolutely not. You can
yeah,
go on our website. There's a demo gallery. You can look through our industry use cases. You can take trainings. There are enablement material. And then we have a large community, a Spotfire community, where you can make questions. So you're getting answer from our experts. And then if you want to learn more, we're having our Dr. Spotfire monthly meeting where you can just listening to discussion that are happening. And there are some quick tip videos that you can listen to. And so I think there is a lot of material available throughout our community if you want to learn more about Spotfire.
Wow, that's interesting. That Dr. Spotfire office hours thing. So this is that's like an open door. Hey, come and ask me anything between these hours. Is that the way that works?
Exactly. You can chime in, listen to it, make questions, or even take advantage of the community. If you don't have time to stay online, you just define a question, you just fire it off, and then you're waiting for a reply, which is coming pretty fast.
Well, that's a great deal then. Hey, so tell us now. We've given the people the resources, right? We talked about everything that Spotfire can do for a company. So hopefully we'll get some people who want to get in touch with you. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Well, reach out to Forogh for everything related to the
Forogh,
States.
you're
Or
going to give
reach
us your
out.
mobile phone number now, okay?
Yeah,
Of course.
I'm on call.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can share our email address. If folks have any questions, they'd like to reach out.
Exactly.
Happy to do that.
Good deal. We'll put that in the show notes. We'll put you guys' email addresses in the show notes, and you can just fire an email to Forogh or Alessandro.
Myself. For
exactly.
email. Yeah. Or even contact us through the Spotfire form that we're having, the contact us form. Just make your question and then reach out to us.
All right.
Yeah, the section in the middle and there's a link, I think, spotfire.com/contact us.
Correct.
Oh, right. And they can just fill out a form and boom, somebody will get to them. Is that one of you two or is that some other person that will get to them?
We have a big company, so whoever is available at the time. But yeah,
that's good, right? Because if they're in a different time zone or something, then somebody's going to answer them right away, right? Not going to wait till you guys wake up wherever you happen to be in the world, right? So.
No way. No need.
Well, that's great. Well, hey, guys, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. It was very interesting, and we'll talk offline about things you can do for our company in the data department. So thanks again for being on the show, guys.
Thank you very much for having us.